Hello, my name is Colin Carmichael. I'm the Executive Director of the Huron Chamber of Commerce. And so I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today, Navigating Uncertainty. This webinar has been put together by the Huron Economic Response Task Force, and that is something that the Huron Chamber of Commerce, the Bayfield and Area Chamber of Commerce, and the South Huron Chamber of Commerce put together about a month ago in response to the trade dispute, I will say, with the United States. And The goal of the task force really is to just pull all of the organizations in Huron County that support our business community, pull them together, pull all of our collective resources together into one place, and that's the Huron the ERTF website, and just provide a forum, provide a venue to share resources and discuss the challenges and perhaps opportunities that this trade dispute has presented. And so we meet every Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. There's a weekly check-in call that everyone is welcome to join, and we talk about any news that's come along or any new resources that are available, any upcoming webinars from other organizations, that kind of thing. And so HuronERTF.ca is the website. All the information is there. And that's where this recording of this webinar will also be posted there for people to take advantage of if they weren't able to join us live today. And so so this webinar came out of the recognition that in this uncertainty, and we may find out more details tomorrow, April 2nd, from the American administration, but there's still lots of uncertainty around all of this and what the impact will be on individual businesses. And so we wanted to bring a few of our local experts, business leaders, to just start the conversation around things that businesses can do to prepare themselves for decisions that may have to be made in the next few days, weeks, months. And even if we don't know today what those decisions might be in the next little while, there are things that our business owners and managers can be at least thinking about or preparing for, or just asking questions about. So we have gathered four local leaders to talk on a few subjects. I will let them introduce themselves as they speak, and so the format here will go through each of the four speaker panelists, and then we will open the floor for a bit of a Q&A. And so you'll be welcome to ask any follow-up questions, that kind of thing. So we will just begin then with Dr. Erin Ross from the Clarity Group in Goderich. Erin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am really honored to be here talking about navigating through uncertainty from a mental health perspective. So I am a psychologist. I work in my private practice, the Clarity Group in Goderich. I'm also the psychologist at the Maitland Valley Family Health Team. So I get the opportunity to see people in a variety of ways and support them. And I certainly recognize, as a business owner and then supporting business owners and managers, that comes with a natural aspect of stress, but uncertainty, whether it be from the disruptions within the industry or these unexpected crises that happened, or shifts, economic shifts, that uncertainty really adds to the burden. It amplifies stress, and it challenges our impact, or it impacts our ability to make decisions. And so I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about some things that we can be doing right now, that we can be promoting our teams, our managers, all of those that we work with, to be doing right now to help us to be in the best place that we can. Some of these pieces are quite simple, but it is important to have those reminders that these are actually very effective tools that we can use. So the first piece that I want to highlight is for all of us to remember that we are not alone. That when we are going through stressful times, we often isolate ourselves because we are feeling isolated. But many people are going through this same experience and have gone through similar experiences, and they have made it through, and so will each of us. And this is a reminder that sharing what we were going through is actually quite an important tool. There's great brain studies that show that when we talk about our distress, it actually changes the brain in a very positive way. So that might be sharing with a business partner, that might be sharing with a spouse or a friend, or maybe it is your family doctor or a therapist. But figure out someone that you can share this with as sort of a first point of providing some help. The next piece I want to highlight is a reminder to all of us to move our feet, to get out and get a bit of physical activity. And I know we have all heard this one before. This is not news to us, but we get through our weeks and we feel like I'm too busy or I'm too tired to do this. But actually getting outside and walking the block is a time where we can rid our body of some stress. It is a place where we can create a headspace to be innovative, to find solutions for pieces of the struggles that we're going through. And it doesn't matter, it can be any activity, but that is a help. Another piece that I think is important is having at least one thing that we do for ourselves in the week. We typically are going through our week and we are putting out fires and we were thinking about everyone else, whether it be staff or customers, our teams, and having something that we just do for our own enjoyment and benefit can have a really important benefit to us. So this could be getting a newspaper and sitting with a coffee for an hour. This could be baking a loaf of bread. This could be watching a show only we like. It is simple things, doesn't have to be costly or time consuming, that can be important to just allowing us to have a more balanced approach or a balance to our week. Also, sort of related to this is this notion of having something to look forward to. I think hope is a really powerful tool that can help keep us going and feeling more optimistic about the future during times of uncertainty. So this can be something big that we are looking forward to, a great summer vacation that is planned. It can also be something very small. It can be something like a visit from a friend, that's coming up, but just something in the future that has us looking forward and something that we can be reflecting on at the end of, a challenging day. Also, I think that the idea of checking in with ourselves and doing this on a regular basis, like a weekly basis, can provide some really valuable information and data that can promote some important sort of change or growth or even just understanding. And so, we're often rushing through our weeks. We don't even check in about how we are managing, but taking 30 seconds to ask yourself, how have I been coping? How's my mood? This is something that I talk to people about quite often. I sometimes guide people, think about a scale, a simple scale of 1 to 10, and ask yourself, where am I at on the scale? So I actually encourage, let's all do this right now. So if you think about on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst I have felt over the past year, and 10 being the best that I have felt, what would I give my coping or my mood over the past 7 days? So for those of you who haven't done this before, this is your baseline. This is where things are at right now. This is a great data point for you. So I suggest record this somewhere, put it in your calendar, and then a week from now, do it again. And this can help to gauge sort of where you are at. What is the trend? Are things staying about the same? Are things fluctuating wildly? Are things declining? This will give us some information. Maybe that means I have to revisit these first 4 points and do a little bit more of these things for myself. Maybe it gives us different data. But I think that this can be a powerful tool to just give us more information about how we're doing, or maybe teaching other people to do the same thing. I also want to highlight this idea of taking our own advice. We are all bright. We are all leaders. You are the people that others come to solve problems, and you have a great advice. At times, we forget to take our own advice. And so stepping back and saying, okay, if someone came to me in the same situation, dealing with the same problems, feeling the same way as I am feeling, what would I tell them? How would I provide them with information, comfort, advice? And then sitting with that and saying, how could I apply that to myself? And then finally, I think that it is important to also remember that there are professionals that are here to help. If you notice that you are struggling, maybe you've done that check-in with yourself and over a few weeks, and you have noticed, wow, that number is lower than I thought it would be, that number is staying lower, or there's a trend that it is going down. This is the time where you say, don't wait, there are others that might be able to help me. This is when I suggest something like going to see your nurse practitioner, your family doctor, reaching out to a mental health professional. I think gone are the days where therapy is just for people who are considered mentally unwell. I'm in the business of mental wellness, right? Guiding people to be optimistic and to be resilient and to work through their problems. And so I encourage all of us to think about that for ourselves and for the other people that we are interacting with. And so thinking about that piece in terms of where we get additional information, my final thing is to highlight there is a list of resources that I have that I think can be a great place to find webinars, websites, local professionals to Huron Perth County who might be able to also assist you. I believe that this is actually a list that is on the task force website, or will be soon. Colin is nodding his head, but I'm also happy to share that in other ways. And certainly at the end of our time here today, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Erin, for that. And yes, that resource is posted to the news and resources page of the task force website, so you can find it there. And yeah, so we'll move on to our next speaker, which is Paul Nichol from Community Futures Huron. So if you want to just give yourself a little bit of an introduction, Paul, and then the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Colin, and thanks very much, Erin. That's wonderful advice. I'm feeling better already. Uh, and a lot of it, so much of it applies to the clientele that we work with our business community. I'm a general manager with Community Futures Huron, and I've worked with small businesses for the last 30 years. And so we've seen some, crisis moments over the years. The 2008 fallout had quite an effect in the local economy at the time. And more recently, the pandemic, which we were very, very much involved in economic recovery efforts during that time frame. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the financial health of your business and how you maintain that stability as we go through this, not knowing how long it's going to be. So my first piece of advice is revisit your cash flow. I guarantee you that if you were doing cash flow projections 6 months ago, they are no longer relevant. And taking a look as much as you can at what the next 6 months may look like, you'll know when you'll know things like if you're reliant on US supplies and when will they run out, or if you're expecting that any contracts you have crossed the border to come due and not be renewed. So as much as you can, to take a look at what are your revenues going to be doing, and what are your expenses going to be doing in that upcoming time frame. I think Erin spoke to get in touch with yourself on a regular basis, and I would say get in touch with your business on a regular basis. And the best way to do that financially is your cash flow. And whether it's you or whether it's your accountant or bookkeeper, now's the time to do it, because as much as you can predict when things are going to happen, you'll be in a better position. So following that, I think it's interesting how Erin's comments reflect a lot about the business community too, because my next one is really about reaching out. And I would suggest that, the first person you want to talk to on your finances is your accountant, and then your banker, if you have a banker, and let them know how you think that things are going to be coming down the line. And I won't speak for any of the banks, but I do know, I've seen signals now that many of the chartered banks are looking at loan deferral, payment deferrals, interest only, that kind of thing. So there's certainly the flexibility on your financial institutions to help you out as much as they can on a cash flow point of view. That brings me to some of the announcements that did come out during just prior to the election. And there are three major, it's called basically the trade impact programs. And the Business Development Bank of Canada, Farm Credit Canada, and Export Development Canada have all been tagged at this point by the federal government to provide some form of relief to businesses as they go through these trade challenges. And I'll start with the BDC. So they are looking at, they have topped up funding, looking at the ability to provide new loans at preferred rates. We don't know what those rates might be, but I won't speak to that exactly, but you'll recall during the pandemic, there was quite a rollout of 0% interest loans, for example, to get businesses through the crisis. So, and I want to point out too, in the BDC, you don't have to currently be a BDC client. So I encourage you to talk to them. They also have good resources around business management that you may find beneficial. The Farm Credit Corporation one, again, they have a much larger amount of money to deal with under preferred loans. And that's largely because the financial requirements of farms are substantially higher than those on small businesses. So, but if anyone on the call or knows of people that are currently clients of Farm Credit, they have certainly started to step up to the plate around that. Export Development Canada is a little down the road for some folks. But they will be a great resource when it comes time that you think that you can find new international suppliers and new markets. And they work very closely with trade commissioners around emerging markets for what could be Canadian products. So if you're not currently tied into them, that's all right. But I think Export Development Canada, as you move forward, if you're in that situation where you're to pivot, you really need to find new international markets. I would speak to that. And then finally, that comes to just my last comment again about reaching out. And there are good resources available locally, and I encourage folks. I think the task force here is hopefully going to be a central repository for the most up-to-date information we can find on what's happening. There are also two really good, one really good, or I would say, I was going to say the Small Business Enterprise Center. I didn't want to brag about us. So the Small Business Enterprise Center again provides great one-on-one business management consulting, as does Community Futures Huron. So, and the only thing that I will say is I think both organizations did come through the pandemic working very, very closely together. So there ain't much that we haven't seen before. And if we can lend our expertise to your enterprise, then absolutely, please do call on us. The final thing I will say about Community Futures Huron is just a reflection on our experience during the pandemic. We called the program RRF. We were called upon. There were so many government programs there, but particularly small businesses did not qualify. For example, if you were self-employed, the business did not qualify. So we would like to see ourselves in a position if if your bank isn't able to help you and you're not a BDC client, then come talk to us. And absolutely, we hope that there'll be opportunities to work with you, both providing the management advice, but also hopefully a financial some financial relief to your enterprise. So thanks, Colin. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Paul. That's some super helpful stuff, and I know a lot of the things that you've mentioned are linked to from the resource page on the task force website, and I'm always looking for new things, and I may have to look at how that information is organized on that page, because as new resources become available, that list is getting quite lengthy, and so we'll be looking at how best to present that information and make that information easy to find. But thanks for that. So we will then move to our next speaker, John Marshall. And so if you could just introduce yourself and then share your insights, that'd be great, John.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, my name is John Marshall. I'm an investor in a variety of Ontario businesses. I do some venture capital work, and I spent a career in doing international business, first in the heavy equipment industry, and then in the auto parts and tool making businesses that I owned. And so what's happening now is very near and dear to my heart, and the sensitivity around it. And in a very practical way, I want to speak to the listeners about some to-dos and not to-dos kind of thing in terms of running companies and running your business. Keep in mind, first of all, we've been through this before. This is not the first time. This won't be the last time. If we go back in history, tariffs both ways, USMCA, NAFTA, GATT 1994, we all lived through those things and we came out the other side. So that's the first thing to remember. And on that topic, the first thing I guess not to do is don't panic. Do not panic. Don't speculate. Don't change paths dramatically, whether it's your people or your inventory or your banking arrangements. Just don't panic. A lot of people rush to judgment on these things, and this is not the time to do that. Act responsibly, act with strategy, act strategically, and do your due diligence. When it happens, react to it. But initially, don't panic. Things to do, be nimble, but not creative. Be in a position to act and react, but don't create problems for yourself. Sometimes you can make long-term decisions on a short-term problem. So be at your desk, be hands on deck, be prepared to act, consider your options. We used to, in our companies, used to do an if this, maybe that scenario. If this happens, maybe that, and be prepared from that perspective. And it's a very helpful exercise just to prepare yourself. Don't react until you need to, but if this, maybe that. I think the other thing to remember is do your due diligence. When I help companies, and I work with a lot of companies in Huron County today, whether trying to reach their goals, whether they're looking to divest or transition or whatever, do your due diligence. I lean very heavily on our economic development group in Goderich, Vicki Lass, and I see Chris Watson's on the call here. They have lots of information. It's current information, it's local information, and they have resources. Rely on them. They know the path, and they can help you and direct you in a lot of valuable ways that you may not know yourself. The other thing is they can help you with what's happened with a variety of businesses in a variety of environments and say what's happened and therefore what might happen. So do your due diligence, ask questions, use those local resources. And again, I can't say it enough, deal with facts, not with speculation. The final thing is, and this may surprise you a bit, but be ready to exploit. I got some news for you, and you know it. On the back side of these things, typically there's some good things happen. If, in my view, this fellow across the border has handed us a gift, this is an opportunity. A lot of the good things will come out of this. I promise you it will. First of all, this, we kind of needed a bit of a kick in the butt. And guess what? We got one. And we're eliminating the trade barriers across our own provinces. A very important thing to do. I think it's really raised the Canadian profile. When I was doing the international business in the heavy equipment business, there was kind of the two tiers of supplier countries. There's a U.S. and Japan and China up here, and then kind of Australia and Canada, kind of a lower tier. This guy's just raised us into that upper tier. If we're that important to the U.S. business, we just became really important worldwide, and there's going to be lots of areas to exploit as this comes out. He's just made us really important. So that's be ready. Again, don't panic, don't react too quickly. Do your due diligence. Use your local resources, and be ready to exploit. Those are my thoughts.
That's fantastic, John. Thanks very much for that. And the Huron County Economic Development Department has now been mentioned twice, and so the director, Vicki Lass, is on the call. And so, Vicki, if you're willing, after our final speaker here, if I'll give you an opportunity to just speak a bit to what Huron County ECDEV offers, and of course the Huron Chamber and work closely with you folks as well. So just a heads up, Vicki, on that I'll be looking your way to speak a bit about that after we hear from Trish Gill from Ladder HR Solutions, and I will let Trish introduce herself properly, and the floor is yours, Trish.
Thank you so much, Colin. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I have the advantage of listening to everyone else's and kind of tying things in. So my name's Trish Gill, and I'm a senior HR consultant with Lather HR Solutions. Just moved into the area and looking to get involved with everything that's going on. I have a little bit of, it's funny because when I looked back at, what I could bring to this discussion, I look back at my career, and I've been through a couple of different emergency situations. back in the early 2000s, the company that I worked for as a director of HR, they went through a fire and their entire building was shut down. And we had to effectively ship our employees 3 hours down the road to our Brampton facility. And it was a medical laboratory, and we kept every single employee. People were willing to travel back and forth. We didn't lose any employees. It was amazing. And then going through the pandemic, you kind of see the same. Okay, what are we going to do? We've got potential layoffs, potential terminations. And so what I just wanted to talk to you about today is just a little bit about those experiences and what you could do to perhaps, just get prepared. And then building on what Erin, Paul, and John have talked about, the first thing is really about building your contingency plan. Through my experiences, understanding if your business goes down by 10, 15, 20%, what does that mean from a labor perspective? And just really, again, like Paul was saying, map out kind of what your options are, what reactions you need to take. And then, so, as much as you can, socialize it, communicate it. To Erin's point, don't let your employees feel alone. Like, talk about it, share the concerns, share the thoughts, ask for suggestions, get people working together. And I think you can see that through all of Canada. We're all kind of banding together and going, not for sale, but, also within your organization, whether you're, 2 people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, band together. And that, through my experience, that really worked well. So remember, if you don't communicate, people will fill in the blanks with worry and negativity. They'll go down the road of worst case scenario. So communicate lots. Even if there's nothing to communicate, that's still a communication. So that was kind of my first point. And my second point would be to look at your policies. What we learned through the pandemic was your contracts should have layoff provisions to prevent any constructive dismissal happening from a common law perspective. In these kinds of situations, the risk of that lowers, as we saw during the pandemic with Doug Ford. But ensuring that, you've got that clause in your contracts, you've talked about it, you looked at the different EI possibilities. I know that the government has bumped up the work sharing provisions. And so that's a great possibility. So you've got people working 2 days and then they get 3 days of EI. So that's a fantastic provision that's out there. If you need to lay people off, there's shorter waiting periods. Actually, there's no waiting period, shorter qualifying hours. So the government's doing what they can do to protect the labor force and keeping them on layoff so that you don't have to terminate them, because we are going to rebound from this. And so you don't want to lose your skilled labor. You don't want to lose your experience. And it's a win-win for both yourselves and your employees and keeping them. That being said, check your benefit information. A lot of organizations have employee and family assistance programs. They're not expensive programs to have. If you don't have benefits, if you're too small for benefits, there are a lot of EFAP providers out there. And this allows employees to contact someone if they need to talk to a counselor about financial, about mental health, about all kinds of things. Actually, they're a wonderful resource. During layoff, you can actually lay off for a longer period if you provide benefits. So there's some legal provisions around that within the ESA. So what else we got here? Oh, and then if you do, hopefully we don't get to that point, but if you do need to get to terminations, make sure that you keep a contingency from a finance perspective in the background in case you do need to terminate. And then you have to provide employees packages to honor the ESA recommendations. So that is kind of the biggest recommendation that we have, is just make sure that you have that in the background as your contingency if you need to go there. Hopefully that won't happen, but that is something to be aware of. So, if you get into terminations over 50, there's ESA provisions, but hopefully everybody will look at layoffs first and foremost. And we're hoping that this is a very temporary situation. So that was really from my experience. And I think from employees, it's just hearing from their leadership team often, and knowing to some extent what your plans are in case this carries on for longer than we expect. Because it is an uncertain time, but you can help that by providing some certainty, and making sure the lines of communication are open. You have an open door policy. That's usually the best, is really just getting people to tie together and working together. People will surprise you when they want to help. So thank you. That's really what I wanted to add.
Thanks so much, Trish. Trish sent me a HR resource. It's always funny to say HR resource because it's a human resource. But anyway, so Trish did send me something yesterday that I posted to the task force website this morning. So there's a new resource under the local tab for HR related things. One thing before I go to Vicky, just to mention, and this kind of cuts through all of the conversation we've had today, is that this isn't just for businesses that expect to be directly impacted by the tariffs. So this isn't just about our exporters and manufacturers and folks who do directly cross-border business. Our other sectors are bound to be impacted, and maybe not as much or in different ways, but are as jobs that seemed secure 6 months ago seem less secure now, wallets tighten up and that discretionary spending, goes away maybe temporarily or whatever, but it's perhaps will impact some of our retailers, some of our hospitality folks who maybe people will choose not to eat out as often and those kinds of things. And so tougher to predict those impacts. But again, a lot of the advice that's been given today, those businesses should be heeding that advice as well, and just kind of walking through those contingencies and what does our summer look like, and what impact, even knowing what, having a sense of what proportion of your summer business is locals versus tourists would be helpful in that, because we are looking at the tourism sector as a whole is optimistic this year. It seems that it may actually be a good year, and some of our tourism operators actually saw that during the COVID pandemic as well, that particularly in that second summer, that it was actually a great year for some of them, and we may see that again. And so just understanding for those businesses, what the likely impacts are going to be would be important. So I will now invite Vicky Loss, who's the Director of Huron County Economic Development, to speak in an impromptu little presentation on what her department offers. And since Paul and John both name checked you in their bits, and as I said, the Huron Chamber works closely with Huron County ECDEV as well, and they do a lot of great work supporting our local businesses. So I'll just let Vicky kind of give an overview of the things that they can provide to our businesses here in Huron County.
Great, thank you, Colin, and thank you for the opportunity. The chambers are valued partners of ours, just as Paul's organization and Tamara, I see, is on the line as well. Community Futures, we work very closely with them and partner on a number of projects. And what John didn't mention is he actually sits on our Economic Development Board. So he is an advisor to our department as well. So we appreciate the opportunity to speak specifically to programs. And I just wanted to note right off the hop what Colin mentioned about impacts on the tourist sector. We've been working very hard over the last little while. We manage the Ontario West Coast brand to actually look for more penetration into that GTA market. And we have been quite successful in that. We have lots of stats as to where our visitors come from, and we just launched our annual report, and in there you'll see a real surge to close to the 50% mark now. Our tourists are coming from the GTA, and we are optimistic that this season although my crystal ball is broken, we're optimistic that this season will reflect something very similar to when we were coming out of the pandemic and people weren't willing to get on planes, that we will see that 2-hour drive time or 3-hour drive time looking for local amenities. And so we are building towards that and working on our tourism collateral that we mainly distribute out of market to draw people into the Huron County market. So you'll see our new visitors guide being released and some other things. But if you'd like some of that data for your businesses, you can find that through our recent annual report. We have been working, as Paul said, one of the first things we suggest that you do is check your cash flow. And we recently held a cash flow workshop, which we were fortunate enough to be able to record, and we'll put that link into the chat for you. A really well-respected presenter who works with a number of small business enterprise centers gave us an in-depth look, and that's available at no charge for you to go on and take a look at. So we'll post that in a moment in the chat. And then I guess our perspective in Huron County economic development is to stay in our lane and do what we normally do. But what we normally do is pretty broad. First of all, collaborate and partner. As we've mentioned, there's a lot of partners on this session today. And also to look what the community needs. And one of the overwhelming things we've heard through the years is please bring more training locally and affordable, that we don't have to send staff out of the area. We don't have to invest in travel, meals, accommodations. And so this year will be our second annual Thrive Summit, which is a response to that request. And I will post details. It's April 14th and 15th, but I was really pleased to hear the conversation today. We are partnering this year with our community safety and well-being groups committee across Huron County. They do phenomenal work on mental health, community connections, and they are actually delivering an entire agenda of activities on day 2 of that summit, which touch on a lot of the points that Erin mentioned earlier today. So some really great speakers from Genwell, Dr. Cranla Warren will be looking at mental health in the workplace, but with some humor. We'll be digging into all kinds of issues, including presentations from our local OPP on safe communities. So lots going on day 2. On day 1, we'll be having a conversation with Brock Dickinson, who is a respected economic developer, teaches at University of Waterloo, is a vice chair of Invest Ontario, and he's going to be giving us sort of a State of the Union address. So kind of talking to a bit of what John talked about. We've been here before, and what did it look like? We've even been here before where, it was thought we should be part of the States, and how did that turn out? Pretty well for us. We're still Canada. So he's going to be giving that overview, which is great. And then when we start to dig into our cash flow and look at our business basics, it's really about who are we, what do we have to offer, and what's our story. So we're thrilled to let you know that Brad Turner will be doing the key elements of storytelling. It's really important to tell our story when we're looking for new markets. It's very important to tell our story to our staff to help calm them down. This is who we are, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. It's really important to tell our story when we're trying to do workforce attraction and retention, investment attraction across the county. And also for some of us who are not-for-profits, those funding applications require us to tell our story and tell it clearly. So storytelling is a part of the whole session. And then the offering of new tools and resources. So we have a keynote who's also talking to us about artificial intelligence and what that looks like in our workplace. Day 2, we'll be talking about what are some of the challenges that we might be faced. So we're giving a well-rounded perspective on artificial intelligence, and then digging into some of those topics in the afternoon, a little bit more fulsome. So in the chat, I've put a link to the agenda for the day and where you can get tickets. It's only $40 a day. So responding to the please make it affordable. And we are thrilled to say that Bruce Power has helped to sponsor our day as well. So when we look at digging into what we do under our umbrella, we have, as I said, tourism. We have sector support. So Chris has done a lot of work on workforce and what that looks like. We have an immigration partnership, so that's really centered on the retention of our newcomer population and making sure they feel settled in our community. And that lends to a healthier community and also to our workforce element. And then, of course, our Small Business Enterprise Center that Paul mentioned earlier, that we work very, very closely with Community Futures on. So those are a number of resources that we have, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for the summit, because it sort of brings together everything we're talking about today with a more in-depth look at some topics. Thanks, Colin, for the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. I have my tickets for both days, so I will see you there for sure. So with that, I'll open the floor. If anyone has any questions for anyone who's spoken today, or even if you have something else to share, another resource that or other insights from your own expertise, we're kind of all experts and all leaders here, as I think Erin said that we're all leaders, or we wouldn't be here. So yeah, if you want to use the raise hand tool or just speak up, happy to answer any questions or any other.
Colin, if I could just, it's John here. If I could just add one thing, and it parrots it piggybacks on what Trish and I think kind of Erin were talking about, and it was in my notes, but I forgot it. And that is, be a good supplier. Keep your customers informed as you go through this. Keep your customers informed. And let them know what you're doing, how you're reacting to it, what's happening to what you're hearing in terms of the comings and goings of tariffs or whatever the issue is. I promise you they won't forget it. If you keep your customers informed, they'll remember that. And be a good supplier. Keep your customers informed as the situation progresses. It's an important thing to do.
Yeah, and even if that message is, I don't know yet.
Exactly correct.
That because you don't want to leave the impression that you're one of those with your head in the sand and hoping it'll all blow over. And with so much being said on social media, traditional media, break rooms, wherever, there's lots of misinformation, disinformation, true information, but is it relevant information? All of those things. And so yeah, I think it is important to project that that you are paying attention, that you're thinking these through these issues, and whether or not what the impact is going to be on that relationship, supplier-client relationship. So there was a question in the chat there if the resources are available for businesses in Central Huron as well. So certainly for the task force, we're all of Huron County, so that's all 9 municipalities in the county, and honestly, if there are folks from outside the county that can benefit from them, they're welcome to them as well. And specifically, I know that the resources that Vicky mentioned from Huron County Economic Development, of course, they're part of the county of Huron as well. So that's for the entire county. And I will say that the Huron Chamber of Commerce events calendar does include not only our own events, but events from all of our partners, members, that kind of thing. So all of the ECDev, really great ECDev webinars can be found on there, as well as obviously ECDev's website and other places. But also webinars from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and others can be found there as well. So I encourage you to look there for those. Any other thoughts, questions?
Again, sorry, I had a question, Colin. When there's more than one organization, kind of a business kind of organization like yourselves and ECDev, do you guys communicate and make sure you have a common messaging and common idea, common approach to the marketplace? I guess is that I'm assuming that's commonly done.
Yeah, we do our best. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm in kind of regular contact with Vicky's team at ECDEV and the other chambers, and I speak regularly with our friends at the BIAs as well. And there's one of the things around when we created this task force was the intention was not to create a monolithic one message from to try to represent all of the organizations, because we all have our own slightly different takes on things, and to be honest, we all had our plans for 2025 already, and it's those things have to still have to happen. And so the task force was really intended to just collect and redistribute things that all of those organizations were already doing, things from Community Futures. United Way is involved with the task force as well, and they have some things particularly around supporting supporting folks if layoffs do start to happen, and they have their funding for that. And so yeah, there's I think it's like I said, one common message would be tricky for all of these different organizations to come to, but we're fairly united on the support local theme. And whether that it's not quite synonymous with Buy Canadian, but of course we want to support our Canadian manufacturers and producers. But supporting our local businesses is the best way to support and protect the Huron County economy. And so whether that's from a retail perspective or hospitality or sourcing out Huron County manufacturers and supporting them in various ways. So there's lots of ways to do that, and we all have, like I said, we all have our own ways of approaching that. But in my experience, we're all fairly unified on the goal, which is supporting our business community and our nonprofit community as well. They have a huge role to play in all of this, and at the Huron Chamber, we're proud to have several of local nonprofits and charities in our membership, and we work closely with them to ensure that the entire community is supported through crises like this. So hope that answers that question for you, John. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and just if I may, for those who are on the call that don't know, part of what all of the organizations that are on this call do is support local. And one of the things that we were able to create was a Shop Huron digital decal. And that's open for any business to use. And we went the route of Shop Huron because there was some debate early on about whether a US franchise was a local business. And we really wanted to drive home not just Shop Local, but Shop Huron, because those businesses invest in our communities. They employ local people, they pay taxes, but more than that, they give back to their communities as well. So that I just put up the link to the toolkit, the Shop Local toolkit, and that digital decal is available for any business to use that is a Huron County business. So thanks, Colin.
On that point, before some of you joined the call, I was saying to Colin that I met a client today, and he is the only Canadian supplier of a product in this category. The other three competitors are American made. And so that's what we're doing here today, is exploiting that, figuring out how to best exploit. Like I said, I'll always be ready to exploit the Buy Canadian, considering the situation we're in, to exploit the Canadian made. So that's one of the things we're doing today. It's on point.
Yeah, I believe it was the ever quotable Winston Churchill who said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And there are those opportunities for sure. Challenges, to be sure, but opportunities often follow along with these crises and challenges, and so yeah, part of this is recognizing those and being able to act on them and use them. So we have just a few minutes left. I'm going to give Terry Louch an opportunity to just to say something on behalf of the Bayfield and Area Chamber of Commerce, who is one of the partners in this task force. Terry actually was the driving force behind this webinar, and it was her that suggested that we should do something like this, and she was absolutely right. So Terry, if you have a few thoughts before we wrap up, that'd be great.
Thanks, Colin. As Colin said, I'm Terry Loughton. I am Secretary Treasurer of the Bayfield and Area Chamber of Commerce. I just have a couple really brief things. First of all, I would like to really, really thank the panelists, and in addition with Vicky, that was a really, really great addition. That was a good thought, Colin. As leaders, and all of you alluded to it, that we're leaders. So as leaders, I don't think that anything that any of you said was new, but what a great resource for our own selves. Erin, you talked about checking in with yourself. So what a great resource for ourselves to think, oh yeah, I actually knew that. And so often in situations like this, we second guess ourselves. Yeah, that works in regular time, but is it going to work now? How am I going to make that work? So just having that reiterated back to us has been, from my perspective, such a great opportunity. So thank you, all of you, so very, very much for being here. But I really, really, really wanted to take a minute to say some things about Colin. Colin has been new to me. He has been a resource I thought I didn't need, quite frankly, and has really become quite important to me personally as a sounding board and somebody who gives me some honest feedback about things, but also a real leader. When we talked about the Huron Economic Response Task Force, and he brought it to us and said, what do you think? Is this something you'd like to be involved in? The way he explained it was so perfect. It was just really something that we thought was going to be really critical moving forward, and it has been. But it's only flourished because of Colin's leadership. The reason this webinar has been so amazing and so successful was because I brought an idea, just the idea, to Colin, and he said, okay, how about we do this, this, and this? And while he touches base regularly, he also knows what he's doing and does it. And it's just been so very helpful to a smaller chamber. For any of you who know us, our chamber is quite a bit different than most chambers. We have to be kind of everything to everybody. So we are tourism, we're economic development, we are actually doing chamber type things. So it's a big job for a little group of volunteer people. And Colin has been such an amazing resource. So I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to continuing our working relationship and our partnership on lots of things going forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Terry. That was not what I had in mind when I asked if you wanted to say a few words, but I appreciate the kind words, and it has been really great, working with the Bayfield Chamber on this project and other things and things moving forward. And tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary as the executive director of the Huron Chamber, and so it has been quite a year, and I'm looking forward to the next several as we work on these partnerships. But enough about me. We're at time, so I will wrap things up and just say tremendous thanks to our panelists, Erin, Paul, John, and Trish, and then Vicky with the last minute addition there. And thanks to all of you for your support of the task force. and hopefully we'll see some of you Monday morning, and just kind of stay tuned for updates. Like I said, we're going to have some news tomorrow. We'll see even if we know what the news is, we probably won't know exactly what the impacts are going to be right away. So lots of information and decisions to come. So hopefully for those who are here today or who are watching the recording, this has been a helpful reminder of some of the things that you need to just think about as we go into this another round of tariff news. So with that, I will say thank you once again, and I will let everyone get on with their Tuesday afternoon. So thanks very much for coming, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Colin.